Facebook is judging you. We've just learned that the massive social network actually has a secret scoring system all about you and me. The Washington Post reports that Facebook is rating your trustworthiness, giving you a secret reputation score, all based on your online actions. Facebook isn't saying what exactly the rating does to you, though. We spoke with cybersecurity lawyer Sean Tuma, who said this once innocent social network is now getting more serious.
What do you make of Facebook now rating its own users' trustworthiness, which sounds a little dystopian?
It may sound dystopian, but in the same way that in the previous segment I was saying I agree with Microsoft using algorithms to identify new domains being created that need to be shut down right away, this is the same kind of proactive work. Unfortunately, we have to see happening more and more on the internet. I mean, the way Facebook disclosed it, given almost everything Facebook is doing these days, you have to question, is it for PR? Is it for effect? I mean, who knows? But do I generally agree that they should be doing it? I absolutely do. And you know, I can be plenty critical of these people. So I think we have to try new means to use every possible way to keep these systems as safe as they can be. And rating people's credibility makes sense to me. We need policy here. We need the companies to participate in policy. And we need voices, citizen voices and civic society to get involved too. I mean, there was an advocate writing an op-ed this week saying we need a citizens council of some sort to help these platforms regulate what is and is not allowed. That's creative thinking. We need more of that kind of creative thinking.
Well, big questions about this latest method, like which users or which countries will be a part of the new fake news initiative. It is also not known how the evaluations will affect individual users on the site or how the process will be monitored. It's put Facebook in the media firing line, but the social media giant insists it is not all Facebook users are convinced by the company's reassurances. They accuse it of moving towards censoring content.
This is the beginning of the end. This model is after the Chinese social credit score. Example, Sally friends with John. John is an outspoken critic of the government. Until Sally unfollows John to raise her score. No loans, benefits.
Now, Sean also said that we have to make sure that we don't get used to all these constant little intrusions because they eventually add up. He said the worst case scenario is that these scores could be used against you in the real world.
My initial thoughts when I read the headline is, oh my goodness, we're heading towards the Chinese Big Brother social scoring system that is going to make Facebook the equivalent of, the artificial intelligence list that determines whether we can buy and sell goods, whether we can own property, whether we can take flights, or things of that nature.
This is totally an episode of Black Mirror on Netflix. So far, Facebook's scoring system is much more limited than that. But what if governments were to contract Facebook, like it does with Google, and use that scoring system to make real-world decisions about us?
The government here says it is trying to purify society by rewarding those who are trustworthy and punishing those who are not. So like the credit score that most Americans get for how they handle their finances, Chinese citizens are now getting social credit scores based on everything from whether they pay their taxes on time to how they cross the street.
When Leo Hu recently tried to book a flight, he was told he was banned from flying because he's on the list of untrustworthy people. Leo is a journalist who was ordered by a court to apologize for a series of tweets he wrote and was then told his apology was insincere. I can't buy property. My child can't go to private school, he says. You feel you're being controlled by the list all the time. And the list is now getting longer, as every Chinese citizen is being assigned a social credit score, a fluctuating rating based on a range of behaviors. It's believed that community service and buying Chinese-made products can raise your score. Fraud, tax evasion, and smoking in non-smoking areas can drop it. If a score gets too low, a person can be banned from buying plane and train tickets, real estate, cars, and even high-speed internet. It's a good thing, this woman says. There should be punishment for people who can't behave.
In several big cities in China, including here in Shanghai, the government is even tracking jaywalkers. Cameras record them going through intersections, zero in on their face, and then publicly shame them on nearby video screens.
Has studied China's economic and political culture for more than 3 decades. He says how the new scoring system truly works is kept secret and could be easily abused by the government.
How far into people's daily mundane activities does this go?
Well, I think that the government and the people running the plan would like it to go as deeply as possible to determine how to allocate benefits and also how to impact and shape
We
their
traveled to
behavior.
Shanghai to talk with China watcher Ken Dwoskin about that Chinese government proposal to evaluate the credit and the online behavior of netizens. It's a plan to rank citizens based on their online activity.
It's a way of compiling information on all the way down to the individual levels that can be rolled up into a score that really talks about how well aligned you are with the agenda of the leaders.
Think of it like a credit score that combines everything from shopping habits to social media posts and can be used by the ruling Communist Party.
It's a continuation of what the Chinese used to do in what they call the Dangan, the portfolio, the personal portfolio.
That portfolio was a sort of file which could affect everything from employability to healthcare options. This advances that concept into the digital age in a country that does not have privacy laws that prevent mass data collection.
The information compiled could affect your ability to go to a top university, could affect your ability to get a really good job, could even affect your ability to get a passport to
What do
travel
you
abroad.
think of this proposed social credit score system?
The score system will probably further narrow the space for speech, Zhang told us. There won't be much that's fit to say in the end. It's pretty scary.
Now, that social credit score system would not be rolled out for a few more years, but it apparently is already having a chilling effect. Zhang was so concerned about talking with us that she set up the interview using several different cell phones and ultimately encrypted text messages. Gail?
到处都是监控，每天装甲车啊，一些坦克啊，在社区里面走来走去，也没有具体的法律规定，没有它的一些尺寸。
Reporting in Xinjiang, in China's far northwest, feels like traveling in a war zone.
So we're here in Urumqi, which is the capital of Xinjiang, in a market downtown. The security here is incredibly tight. There are armored cars on the street, police stations on every corner, and tons of surveillance cameras.
In the past year, police have stepped up security. The region is now under what's probably the most intense government surveillance in the world. Here, China is experimenting with futuristic spying technologies. For years, China has tried to suppress a separatist movement made up of Uyghurs, a local ethnic group. Authorities say the separatists are Islamic terrorists. We came to see what life looks like in a place where your every move can be monitored. To be in Xinjiang means being checked every day, multiple times a day. When you go to a market, when you drive a car, when you take a train, even your smartphone is checked. As reporters, we were stopped dozens of times by police in just a few days. Our interviews were interrupted. We were detained and chased out of town. Daily life can be exhausting even for people who approve of the security, like this wine shop owner we met.
非常麻烦，就会给人造成一种困扰。人一旦有了困扰，他就不愿意去干这个事。对，就像我喜欢逛街，但是我一去逛街就要查个身份证的话，有造成的困扰，我就不愿意上街了。
The surveillance apparatus falls hardest on Uyghurs. Parhat Imin sells pomegranate juice in the streets of Urumqi. He used to sell Islamic items, but after ethnic riots in 2009, the police forced him to close his shop.
Imin has had run-ins with authorities since. He was once sent to jail for buying hashish. Now, he says every time he goes through a checkpoint, his ID sets off an alarm. Imin says authorities are targeting him because he's Uyghur. The government didn't respond to requests for comment.
In Xinjiang, Chen has taken his methods of mass control to a new level, turning the region into a laboratory for new surveillance technology. ID cards loaded with personal details are used to track people's movements. Residents have different levels of freedom based on factors like ethnicity and religious practices.
Goods that are deemed dangerous are tightly controlled. If you want to buy a knife in this cutlery shop, for example, the purchase is tied to your ID, as this salesman demonstrates.
这个就二维码，这个就二维码编号，然后直接雕刻能激光刻上就可以了。就是一个身份证放在上面，然后一读卡，这个身份证照片、身份证号码，然后民族、家庭住址都有了，然后生成一个二维码。
The system also tracks faces. An immense network of security cameras, some equipped with facial recognition, is constantly monitoring the streets. Facial recognition systems are also used to match people with their ID cards, everywhere from shopping malls to gas stations. Authorities use artificial intelligence that can alert them if someone in a video is walking too fast or parked in the wrong spot. The government has also massively increased human surveillance. It has recruited 6 times more policemen this year than it did in 2015. Cities are now dotted with brand new police booths, one every couple hundred yards in some Uyghur neighborhoods. Hamid says the situation in Xinjiang took a turn for the worse in the spring this year. Police started collecting massive amounts of detail about the lives of Uyghur residents.
这个表格呢，就是发到每一个人的手里。这边有很多信息。 他的民族身份、维吾尔族、无业人员、有护照、每日礼拜，这是给人打分，判断这个人是放行人员还是一般人员还是不放行人员。
Hamid and other Uyghurs in exile say people categorized as unsafe were sent to study centers for political education. We found one of the so-called schools buried down a rural road on the outskirts of Kashgar. It was newly built and looked more like a prison, with watchtowers and walls topped with razor wire.
这是说白了，就是集中营。这个时候就通过监控来指定抓什么样的人。
The government didn't respond to our request for comment, but Hamid says many more people are being detained today than in the past.
很多人他不知道为什么被抓，不知道把他送到哪里，不知道什么时候放出来。